Welcome to the NCDWI Guide podcast, where defenders of the Constitution assemble to prepare for courtroom battle and firm owners gather to develop marketing strategies that will revolutionize the practice of criminal defense. Here's your host, the NCDWI guy, Jake Minnick.
Lawyers say that words matter, and they are right. But conduct matters too. And Moore and Fisher knew that when one acts consistently with a properly formed conscience, one lives free even when consigned to a prison tower. One lives courageously even when the forces of the king are arrayed against you. One dies heroically, even humorously, in the knowledge that the one served is beckoning. Well done, my good and faithful servant, of the King and God first. Those are words from Judge Robert Conrad's book, Keeping Their Souls While Losing Their Heads, a reflection on the saints, John Fisher and Thomas Moore. And the day that this podcast airs is the feast day of Thomas Moore, patron saint of lawyers. We had Judge Conrad on the podcast back on episode number 82 to discuss this book about John Fisher and Thomas Moore. Great read. It really is a book written about these saints, but with a lawyer lens. It's really kind of written from a lawyer's perspective, from Judge Conrad's perspective, for lawyers. We've talked about in the past the life of Thomas Moore. And on episode 10 of the podcast, I did a reflection on Thomas Moore. That podcast is titled A Man for Our Season, which is a play on words of the great screenplay, A Man for All Seasons, about the life of Thomas Moore. But today I kind of want to reflect on, and this is episode number 114, not the typical way that we begin these episodes, but I wanted to just dive right into that book. And today I'm going to talk about the importance for us as lawyers to have heroes in our life. And I would say particularly for the criminal defense community, for us to have heroes that inspire us to practice the law with more heroic passion and more heroic qualities than we currently are. We all need great heroes to look to so that we can improve the practice of law and particularly improve the way that the criminal defense community is perceived by the other people in the court and also the public. To have the moral high ground is a huge advantage. It is an absolutely huge advantage in the courtroom. It's a huge advantage when you're arguing in front of a district court judge. Massive advantage when you're arguing in front of a jury. And the reason for that is that if you have the moral high ground, you engender trust with the person that you are communicating to or the group that you are communicating to. So having the moral high ground in your own office means that when a client comes in and talks to you, they are able to trust you. And that is really the fundamental part of the attorney-client relationship is trust. When you can walk in with an integrity and character into the courtroom in front of the district court judges that you so often interact with, if you have the moral high ground, it's going to be much easier to convince the judge of your position, to convince the judge of your interpretation of the law, of your interpretation of the facts, because again, trust is built into having that moral high ground. If you're trying to communicate to the DA about a particular case that you have, about a particular client that you are representing, and wanting that DA to do a deferred prosecution, or hoping that the DA will allow your client to prove to them that they are deserving of some particular outcome. Coming in with moral fiber, with the moral high ground, is going to be a huge advantage when you're communicating to the DA, because the DA is not really only considering your client's position, your client's story. The DA is really, in a lot of ways, deciding, is this attorney giving me the full story? Can I trust what this attorney is telling me about their client, about his or her client? So if you walk in with the moral high ground, your client, regardless of their own moral character, has a much higher chance of getting the outcome that you are hoping for if you are perceived to be on the moral high ground. If you're in front of a jury, this is probably like the height of when it matters to have the moral high ground, because a jury doesn't know you from Adam, right? 12 people never seen you before, talked to you before. These people are going to go into a room, communicate with each other about the case. And I think it really can't be underestimated how important it is for the jury in terms of, in a criminal case, do they trust the criminal defense attorney? Do they trust the prosecutor? And maybe they trust neither, maybe they trust both. But if you can stand in front of a jury on the moral high ground, you are incredibly empowered by that, incredibly empowered. And if you want to kind of see the value of standing on the moral high ground and how much that is important, I just got finished watching the closing argument of Matthew McConaughey in A Time to Kill. I just got finished watching the closing argument of Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. Go to YouTube. YouTube the closing argument of A Time to Kill. YouTube the closing argument of To Kill a Mockingbird. YouTube Thomas More's closing argument in A Man for All Seasons. And what you will notice is that each of those men in that criminal defense context are on the moral high ground. And you can see how much it matters to be standing on the moral high ground. Again, regardless of what you think about the defendant, the attorney in those cases, Thomas More is his own attorney, but in the cases of a Time to Kill and To Kill a Mockingbird, you see the criminal defense lawyer standing on the moral high ground, and how powerful it is to be on the moral high ground. So go watch those, go see those inspiring closing arguments that showcase criminal defense lawyers really promoting justice, fighting for people's lives, fighting for rights, fighting for freedom. That's what we do as a criminal defense bar, is we are a bastion of freedom. We are a powerhouse for protecting people's rights against the government, right? That's what we are supposed to be doing. We're also supposed to be helping people get their lives back on track, right? We have no business being in criminal defense work if we ultimately aren't concerned about changing people's lives for the better, because we have an extremely rare opportunity to do that with our clients each and every day that we practice. And there is nothing more powerful in the world than hearing a success story of somebody that has turned their life around. I had a DMV hearing this morning. I've spoken about this many times. DMV hearings, helping people get their license reinstated, is really my favorite part of practicing law. As much as I love trying cases in the courtroom, the DMV hearings are just so emotionally charged and wonderful to take in. And I had a client who had 4 DWIs, was in an awful spot when he got his last 2 within days of each other. And to hear him and his 3 witnesses talk about the story of redemption, the way that he had changed his life by going into intensive recovery for 2 years, the way that he's continued to institute the practices that he learned during that period of recovery in his life since, it was really magical to hear that coming out in front of the hearing officer during the reinstatement hearing, during the restoration hearing. And it is just such an amazing reminder that the people that we help, the people that we represent, really can change their lives, can live a much better and more fulfilled life. And we can be a part of that change, a massive part of that change, because when people talk to us, they are at the lowest point. And so again, coming into those consultations with that moral high ground, not to point fingers and not to demean our clients or anybody else, but to come in and recognize that this person that is sitting with me has the real opportunity currently, immediately, right now, to better their life, and I can be a part of that. We have to constantly remind ourselves of that. So we need good heroes. We need heroes as criminal defense lawyers to really model ourselves after, to follow in the footsteps of. We've got to find those people that are going to inspire us to be better lawyers and to serve our clients better. So I encourage you to find those heroes. And there are many of them in the criminal defense bar. I would argue that we have had a number of heroes, a number of my personal heroes for sure, on this podcast, people throughout the state of North Carolina and other places that are really concerned about bettering the lives of their clients, their employees, and bettering the criminal defense bar of their fellow criminal defense lawyers. Those are people we want to model our practices after. Those are people that we want to emulate so that we can help the criminal defense bar, help our teammates, help our employees, help our clients do the same. We want to bring that. So I wanted to reflect just briefly on 3 characteristics of a hero. And so as you're looking for other attorneys to emulate, this is something to be cognizant of. And again, you can look for heroes in your criminal defense bar locally. You can look for heroes that are dead, right? I mean, Thomas More is one of my heroes, and he's long gone in terms of life on this earth. Feel like I can still communicate with him through prayer, but certainly not walking around anymore. And so you can find those heroes in the movies, as we've referenced with To Kill a Mockingbird or A Time to Kill. But I think sitting down and really reflecting on what characteristics to emulate is a huge part, not just of improving the criminal defense bar, but of improving your practice. I'm telling you, this is going to have a massive impact on your practice. It's not the reason to do it. It's not to better your practice or to make your practice more successful that you should try to find that moral high ground. But I'm telling you that if you emulate those that are standing on the moral high ground, then I've found that when I've emulated my heroes, it has taken my practice to a level that I never expected to see. So I'm grateful for those heroes that I have, both dead and alive, that have inspired me to be a better lawyer, more importantly, a better person. So 3 characteristics of a hero. First, and I think this is one that a lot of people think of when they think of a hero, is a person of courage, right? It takes courage to be a criminal defense lawyer and to be a good criminal defense lawyer. The cards are stacked against us. The deck is stacked against us, so to speak, when we go into the courtroom. And I think that we a lot of times walk into the courtroom without being on the moral high ground. That's not how the jury, when they see you sit next to the defendant, I think just automatically a lot of jurors are thinking, what has this person done wrong? Why is this attorney representing this defendant that's been charged with X, Y, Z? We don't stand on the more high ground. And it takes courage to protect people's rights in a lot of instances. It takes courage to take difficult cases to trial. So to be a good criminal defense lawyer, I think it takes a lot of courage. This is a quote from Herodotus. I really like this quote. As I was preparing for the podcast, this one popped up, and I really like this quote. It is a law of nature that faint-hearted men should be the fruit of luxurious countries, for we never find that the same soil produces delicacies and heroes. I'm going to read that again. It is a law of nature that faint-hearted men should be the fruit of luxurious countries, for we never find that the same soil produces delicacies and heroes. We are living in a very blessed country from a kind of average means side of things, a very wealthy country. And I think to some extent, one of the few downsides of that is that it is difficult sometimes to be heroic in a place where there is not a call to greatness, where we don't have the same struggles that a lot of people have to deal with. And so I think that finding those attorneys in your local bar, finding those heroes to emulate that go up against the grain, that really have to struggle, that have to work, that are not afraid to fight through difficult challenges, is really somebody to look towards when it comes to finding a person to emulate. It's really, I think, a valuable character trait for us to look at, reflect upon, and find examples of, because it is so necessary for trial lawyers, especially ones with the deck stacked against them, to not be faint-hearted, to walk into the courtroom and recognize that I am all that stands between the government and my client, and protecting my client's constitutional rights, statutory rights, to helping my client get the justice that they deserve in the courtroom. And that requires great courage and therefore great heroism. So find those people that are not afraid to rattle sabers, not afraid to go to bat for their clients, not afraid to challenge the status quo, not afraid to go up against the power of the state. Second characteristic of a hero is, to me, selflessness, being focused on others. This is a huge characteristic of a hero. Fred Rogers once said, "We live in a world in which we need to share responsibility." It's easy to say, it's not my child, it's not my community, not my world, not my problem. Then there are those who see the need and respond. I consider those people my heroes. Beautiful, beautiful reflection on heroism being from people that are other focused, that are focused on bettering the lives of, again, their teammates, their community, their clients, right? This, when we think of heroes, we often think of the person in the cape, the superhero, but really heroism is an ordinary thing. That the great heroes are the real people that we see walking around every day, that through very small words, very small actions are impacting the communities that they live in, that are impacting the lives of the people that they come into touch with. And again, I'm not trying to get all woo-woo with this podcast. I just think it's really important for us every once in a while to kind of go back to reflecting on our why. Why are we doing this? What is the reason that we are practicing law, that we are a criminal defense lawyer? And if ultimately that is not to serve some higher purpose, some higher mission, to serve people outside of ourselves, I think that the practice of law is going to be miserable. And it's going to be difficult, honestly, to make ends meet as a lawyer if you're not other focused, because that's the key to success. It is the key to having a thriving practice, is helping good people in their darkest hour, as we have as our mission at the office. Being other focused is what brings fulfillment to the practice of law. And almost every criminal defense lawyer that I've ever met that likes doing what they do really enjoys going to bat for clients, really enjoys the people that they get to help. And fundamentally, that just makes sense, right? I mean, if we're miserable doing what we do, likely it's because we aren't kind of seeing, we aren't experiencing, we aren't feeling the value that we are called to bring into our work. So find those lawyers that seem totally passionate about serving others, serving the fellow members in the bar, employees, clients, the community, serving people in the courthouse. Those are the people to emulate. That's how you're going to become a hero, become standing on the moral high ground. Finally, and this is something that is maybe the most important character trait, but humility. Third characteristic of a hero to me is humility. And we had talked a couple of episodes back with my brother, Jeremy, episodes 111 and 112 on the podcast, or 110 and 111 on the podcast, about kind of seeing our client as the hero, and basically looking at ourselves as the attorney, as the guide. We are the guide in the client's life, and the client is the hero of their own story. So this whole episode may make almost like, kind of feel like it's going against that concept. But again, the focus of this episode is not to see ourselves as the heroes, but finding those heroes in our own lives that we can emulate so that we can become better lawyers. So it's looking for heroes really outside of ourselves. And one of the real characteristics to me of a hero is humility. Jessica Jung says a true hero protects his identity not out of fear, but out of humility. A true hero protects his identity not out of fear, but out of humility. As soon as we start seeing ourselves as the hero running around in the cape, that is making everything work, and that people are praising and applauding and giving awards to, that's problematic, because it immediately is going to kind of drive away from that self-serving purpose that we just talked about, in terms of characteristic of a hero being selfless and being other focused. But in that stage of humility, now where it's all about helping others, right? The superhero that puts on the mask does so not because they're afraid of people to know their identity, but so that they don't have to have all the praise. It can really be selfless work. That humility to recognize that we are working towards others' benefit, that we are hoping to improve the lives of those around us, is just so important. And I think this is one of the great heroes in my life really have carried this level of humility so beautifully. We've got so many great lawyers here in Asheville that have been heroes in my personal practice, and across the state. We have just an incredible a group of criminal defense lawyers that have been practicing and fighting like mad for clients, and so many are just as humble as can be. Don't put on airs, don't look at you as the newbie, as beneath them, but are ready to share their knowledge, ready to help you along the way. And I think that great humility, that great sense of service from these lawyers has been so inspiring to me, because I think it is something that is somewhat unique to the criminal defense community. I think there is a lot of attorneys in the civil bar that really see everybody else that's coming up as a potential competitor and somebody that they need to keep at bay at all costs. It's not true of everybody, but in terms of my experience practicing civil work at the beginning of my career, which was minimal, but I got that sense of there. If you're trying to kind of improve yourself, good luck. You figure it out. Go to CLE, but I don't have the time and energy to kind of help bring you up. Certainly don't want additional competitors. That is just not true with regards to criminal defense lawyers. I think we have a great sense of, and I would just say, I won't say this about myself, but I'll say this about my heroes in the criminal defense bar. They have incredible humility in helping the newer attorneys and helping people that are looking to get answers on how to handle a case, what to do. The ability to serve, to me, directly stems from this ability to be humble and always be searching, right? That the other thing that marks this humility in some of these more experienced lawyers is that they're always learning. They're always studying the law. And again, that I think comes from a great sense of humility, that I don't know everything, and I can improve my practice, and I can improve the way that I offer my services. I can improve the way that I communicate with clients. I can improve the way I deliver a closing argument in the courtroom. I can improve outcomes for clients in communicating with the DA based on years of experience and bouncing ideas off of other people. So that humility is really what allows for growth. It's what allows for the individual attorney to get better. And I would say the criminal defense bar as a whole to get better. So again, don't want to belabor these items. I think that, just wanted to offer a short reflection on this feast day of Thomas More to hopefully inspire all of us to sit down for just a few minutes and reflect upon why we are practicing, why we want to serve our clients, and to look for heroes. Again, ones that are in our community, ones that are on the television, ones that have gone before us, to find heroes that can inspire us to be better lawyers, better people, better for our clients. I'm going to end with the prayer to Thomas More. Thomas More, counselor of law and statesman of integrity, Mary, martyr and most human of saints, pray that for the glory of God and in the pursuit of his justice, I may be trustworthy with confidences, keen in study, accurate in analysis, correct in conclusion, able in argument, loyal to clients, honest with all, courteous to adversaries, ever attentive to conscience. Sit with me at my desk and listen with me to my clients' tales. Read with me in my library and stand always beside me, so that today I shall not, to win a point, lose my soul. Pray that my family may find in me what yours found in you: friendship and courage, cheerfulness and charity, diligence and duties, counsel and adversity, patience and pain, their good servant, and God's first. Amen.